Welcome to Retire Coast, where we discuss all things retirement, life on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and your financial welfare. Bill Anderson, your host, is a serial entrepreneur having created many successful businesses and holds a real estate broker's license, speaks about personal experiences with each topic. Listen.
Well, thanks for coming back again. I want to talk today about that new RV you're thinking about buying. And before you do that, just hold off for a moment and listen to what I have to say about that. Now, I'm speaking from experience. I have bought a number of RVs, everything, every Class A, Class C. I bought trailers, you name it. I've had them all over the years, many of them actually, both for myself and for my company. And so I have got something to say to you that might be important before you spend your money. Number one rule, don't buy a new RV. Don't be tempted by the sales where they've knocked off $10,000 or $20,000 off the price. There's basically two prices when you go to buy a new one. One of them is that list price. Nobody ever sells them for, except during the COVID time when people actually paid that for it. Shame on them. And the other price is basically the typical price that they offer them for, a little bit higher than where it will be if you really negotiate hard. And that's not what I'm telling you to do in any case here. I'm just giving you some idea of what you're going to face out there. Nobody really gets a good deal on a new RV. And I'll tell you why. Because new RVs don't work. That's a broad statement. I know it might be shocking, but it's true. Talk to anyone who's ever bought a new RV, and there is a long period of adjustment where that thing sits in the shop getting fixed. All kinds of things happen to RVs. They're kind of like a house, if you think about it. Many, many things that have to come together. But most manufacturers don't do a real good job of testing these things out. They push them out the door to the dealer, and they expect the dealer to do all the repairs. And what happens is you walk through with the dealer, and you're going to find this, and you're going to find that problem, and they're going to mark it down, and you want to take this home in the worst way. So you end up taking it, and you make an appointment. You have to bring it back again, and you leave it there for a few days, a few weeks, seems maybe like forever. I've had mine in the shop for as much as 3 months, and it's no fun because you have a 1-year warranty on a new motorhome, and if it spends most of its time in the shop, the manufacturer doesn't care. So there goes part of your warranty to begin with. It's just what happens when you buy new. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just part of the business, but you are going to be the one that's put out by having to take it down to the dealer and get it fixed. And the worst thing is when things happen and you're on the road. And I can tell you, let me just give you a couple of things. I bought a motorhome that had a washer and a dryer. That's not a critical thing when you go out someplace. But we were traveling, and we bought a new house, and we were parked out in front of the new house. We couldn't take possession of it for a while, so it was time to do the laundry. We went to do the laundry in this motorhome that we had for about a year. We hadn't used the washer and dryer in that time, and the washer wouldn't work. Took it back to the dealer, and the dealer said, oh, they never connected it in the back. Okay, sounds simple, that's true, but we couldn't use it. We were inconvenienced. That one was only in the shop for 3 weeks, but I couldn't use it during that 3 weeks, so I had to plan around it. There were another time when the slides didn't work. I've had 2 motorhomes with problems with the slides. I've had all kinds of other issues with the motorhomes, too, with the drains and on and on during the periods of time that I've owned different kinds of motorhomes. The fact is it's going to happen. Now, the point I'm trying to make here, I'm sorry I'm not making it well, is don't buy a new motorhome. And I'll tell you why. Not just because of the money that you'll save, but because there are lots of people out there that buy motorhomes and put very few miles on them. They find out that it just isn't their lifestyle. Many of them buy them in retirement, and then some medical problem comes up and they can't use them. So there are a lot of motorhomes, usually, except after COVID, because everybody bought up everything that would roll, But there are a lot of motorhomes on the market as I'm speaking now, because some of those have come back on the market. And then all the people that went out and took their stimulus money and thought they would use it as a down payment, and they bought something they didn't need. So, speaking about buying a used RV, there are lots of good choices. But let me tell you now about all the stuff that got fixed. The people that bought those motorhomes ended up taking it down to the shop and letting it sit there for weeks at a time, and it's all working. Most people that sell these motorhomes sell them to you after they've done all the work, and they should have all the receipts to show you. They'll just tell you, we had a problem with the slide, we had a problem with the drain, we had a problem with the electrical system, we had a problem with this or with that. Not often is there a problem with the engine, because almost all motorhomes now use the Ford V10 engine, and they're under a long warranty, and that's a really good engine and drivetrain. It's usually something to do with the actual unit itself, and so these people have fixed all those things. Now you've got a unit that you can drive away and use it for your first vacation. The best part, well, actually, that's not the best part. The best part is that things don't break down. But the next best part is that you're going to save a lot of money. Lots and lots and lots of money. You might be able to buy a new motorhome of a certain type for, let's say, $100,000 today. And that used motorhome with maybe 5,000 or 6,000 miles on it might be around $74,000. Now, think about this for a moment. All motorhomes have to be driven from the factory. So they're going to have anywhere from 200 or 300 miles to 2,500 miles on them just to get them to the dealership. Plus, people drive them around a little bit to see how they like them. So if you take a look at some of the miles that are on these motorhomes, most of those miles were driven from the factory. If they're real low miles, even if it's 10,000 or 15 or 20,000 miles on a motorhome, that's really nothing on these truck chassis. So it's a pretty good deal. Then you can start subtracting some of those miles where they took them or drove it from the factory, and also back and forth over to the shop. So in other words, there's miles on there, but the motorhomes weren't being lived in. So before you decide to run out and buy that new motorhome that's going to give you nothing but grief, take a look at the same model, possibly even the same year. Now, the other thing that happens is people will buy a motorhome, a brand new one, and they'll drive it for 200 or 300 miles, maybe on one vacation. Maybe they don't even take a vacation, but they bring it back to the dealer and say, hey, I don't really want this one. I'll trade it up for a bigger one. So they take them in, they take a bath on that. The dealers have to sell it as a used motorhome, and they're going to discount that heavily. So that's an opportunity for you there if you must have essentially a new motorhome. That's one way to get one. Another way is to wait until the next 2 or 3 years. Now, sometimes those dealers in the past, before COVID, everything's before COVID now, would have a motorhome on the lot that was 2 or 3 model years old. For some reason, it didn't sell. Often these model years don't follow. They're not like car model years where they put them out ahead of time. A lot of times they drag behind. So they're 2 or 3 model years behind. And what they have on their lot is, for example, a 2000, a 2001, a 2002, or a 2023, 22, 20, whatever, just the 3 years. And they can't sell them all at the same price. So that's a way to buy a new one. But I'm circling all the way back and saying, don't buy a new one because of all the problems that you're going to have. And problems are money, particularly if those things occur when you're taking a vacation. Just think about this. You've got multiple slides on your motorhome, and one of them won't retract. So you have to call somebody to come out to a national park somewhere, if you can find somebody, to help you retract that pop-out. And you might not be able to do that. You might be in a position where that has to be towed in or some other action taken. you don't want to risk that. Now, I'm not trying to scare you because often these things have a resolution without going to all those extremes. Nevertheless, don't spend the time that I did. I bought one motorhome. It was a diesel motorhome. And that motorhome, in the first year that I owned it, spent more than 6 months in the shop on 3 different occasions. Twice, it was to fix the same problem that really wasn't fully fixed the first time. 6 months went by, and then I had a couple more issues, and I had to go back to the factory and beg for them to fix one. We had an exhaust leak in there, and we didn't drive it enough to know that, and I told them it had been in the shop for 6 months. We didn't get a chance to use it, and they ended up fixing that. We also had, with actually the motorhome we have now, we had a problem with the slide. I would keep mentioning the slides. They're pretty tricky things. And the slide mechanism wasn't working right. The electronics weren't working right. We took it in to have it fixed. They said they fixed it. They did what the factory told them to do. Unfortunately, the factory sent them the wrong version of the software that they had to install. So by the time I convinced the factory that this was 6 months out of warranty and I needed to have it fixed because I had it fixed the first time in warranty, the factory agreed to do it. And so the entire unit itself had been upgraded and they had to send one out. It was in the shop for 4 months trying to get all that done. So motorhomes can just sit there in the shop or they can sit there in the parking area one way or the other. If you want to use one, be sure to get one that's all the bugs have been worked out, and that's what you'll get if you buy a used motorhome with all the receipts and everything. So if you're interested in buying a used motorhome, there are a number of sources out there. There's RV Trader, for example. That's one on a national basis. There are others that you can look up on the internet. And if you find somebody, call them up and talk to them on the phone and have them do a walk around with their iPhone, for example, show you everything, and talk to them about all the receipts that they have. What kind of work have they had done on it? People that own motorhomes aren't going to hide that. Actually, it's almost a badge of honor that you actually had it fixed for them, and they don't have to worry about it later on. So if you're considering buying a motorhome, consider buying a used one. Save yourself a lot of money. And for those of you that are preparing for retirement, Retire Coast has written a whole series on Gen X retirement in 20 years. So how does that fit with this motorhome? Well, we talk about a lot of things in those 6 modules that we did, and one of them is reducing your costs. So if you want a motorhome, you're thinking about retirement, getting close to retirement, and you can save $40,000 on a motorhome, that money can go right into your retirement plan. So we're always looking for some way to save money, and yet you get what you want, which is a motorhome that takes you from A to B and has all the same features in it. It may not have that new motorhome smell, but maybe you can buy that in a can and put it in there. Please go to our blog site at retirecoast.com, and thanks for coming. I hope that you'll come back and listen to other podcasts. And again, visit our website at retirecoast.com.